The International Court of Justice is the UN court, so it's the judicial organ or the judicial arm of the court and of the UN, and it's been asked for an advisory opinion by the United Nations General Assembly on the situation in Gaza. And there's two specific issues really before the judges of the International Court of Justice. And the first question relates to what are the privileges and immunities attached to UN organisations, so like UNRWA, for example, in Gaza? And the second question before the International Court of Justice is, what are the obligations of occupying powers, such as Israel in this state, in this case, on the ground? Now, what's going to happen before the chambers of the International Court of Justice, and it started already yesterday in The Hague, is that states are going to be making submissions relating to those two issues. For the first issue, I suspect the majority of states will be supporting the rule of international law. And the first question in relation to privileges and immunities, it'll look at the UN Charter, it'll look at the UN Convention on privileges and immunities, and the submissions, I suspect, will say that UN organisations like UNRWA are protected under international law. Now, the second issue relating to obligations of occupying powers, I imagine that those supporting states will look at the Geneva Conventions, they'll look at international law, they'll look at international humanitarian law, and of course the answer to that is civilians are protected and starvation as a method of warfare is illegal under international law.
Israel, though, has argued under international law that it's no longer obliged to allow aid into Gaza if Hamas steals that aid or diverts it, which Israel claims is the case. Does that absolve Israel in any way?
Well, the short answer there is, Ros, no. And again, we see continuous devastating pictures coming out of Gaza with children going hungry, scrambling for food. Clearly, the aid is not going into Gaza, into those who need it. And I suspect that the states that do support Israel, which I think would probably be the US and Hungary, will make submissions along those lines and say, look, aid's going in and any aid that is going in is going to Hamas anyway. But that gives you no justification to create a man-made famine.
So how much weight does the eventual international court ruling carry, Regina? How much obligation is Israel under to comply?
Well, it is a non-binding opinion, so it's not enforceable. However, Israel is a member of the United Nations and has been for a long time. And when the UN's top organ, or top judicial organ, makes a decision and gives an opinion, it should be followed, particularly if it's saying that this is what international law is. Now, whether or not Israel will actually follow, I'd be very surprised if it does. It hasn't in 2024, when orders were made to let humanitarian aid into Gaza. It completely disregarded those. And in fact, what we've seen since the beginning of March is all aid has been stopped.
So finally, Regina, when is the court expected to publish its opinion?
I think that'll be months away. There'll be a lot of submissions. There's written submissions. There are now obviously oral submissions being made, so it would be months away. But we do still have to remember that the order of the International Court of Justice, which was made in 2024, still stands. So that obligation to let that humanitarian aid in is still an order of the court, no matter what this decision says or this advisory opinion says.
Regina Weiss, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ros.